the Retro Craptacular podcast, where each month we continue our search for the best bad movies on the planet Earth. I am your host, Aaron, and I am joined, as always, by Matt.
Hello.
Hi.
My dear friend.
Oh, it's good to be back for Season 3.
Season 3.
I don't know why.
The third frontier.
Yeah. This is when things get real. The budget has gone up, so we can afford more expensive sets,
Bottled water.
props, extras.
Yes, there will be much more visual aids.
Yeah.
For this season, which we will enjoy greatly.
Yeah. For the purposes of the listener, it'd still probably be mostly the same experience.
Well, yeah,
as
but
always.
I think it does affect the audio quality if I'm holding a rubber chicken while I talk.
Yeah,
it comes across.
It adds a quirkiness to
Yeah.
it that just is. It's a little how you say, a little je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I was just a little slow. What are we talking about?
Oh yeah. Well, the only thing I've seen recently is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse.
You haven't seen that yet, so
I have not seen it.
I don't want to talk about it without. The only thing I could say is that it's good.
Cool. Yes, I've heard good things. Heard good things. It has quite the cast.
Otherwise, it would be. Yeah, the cast is dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so happy that I lived to see Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham, on a motion picture screen.
Yes.
That the fact that we've gotten to that point makes me happy beyond words.
What a time to be alive.
It really is. You could there's nothing is out of the realm of possibility. Let's do a wacky Howard the Duck movie next.
Yeah.
Do an animated Howard the Duck movie.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be really good. But we are kicking off the year by looking at The Lord of the Rings.
The Lord of the Rings.
Beyond the farthest reaches of the imagination and deep within the human heart, here, in a time when the world was young, in what is known as the Third Age of Middle-earth, a tale is told of deeds and beings, a tale of a day when a great shadow will fall across the earth, and ancient sorcerers will lock in mortal combat with the phantoms of the night. Then will the raging War of the Rings draw the blood of heroes, and the final destiny of all mankind will be written. Then will mortal men with dwarf lords and elven princes come to stand together in a single noble army and thunder against all the hosts of darkness at the very gates of doom. This is the legend of Middle-earth as it is written in the hearts of men. It is a world more real than any other. A haunting, forbidden world where innocence can overcome evil and a single dream is more powerful than 1,000 realities. This is the magnificent gift that J.R.R. Tolkien left to the human heart and that fantasy films now brings to the screen. The vision beyond imagination. The Lord of the Rings.
Not the Peter Jackson one.
Super not.
No.
We're talking 1978.
The Ralph Bakshi animated kind of Lord of the Rings.
Yes, the somewhat animated.
The somewhat animated Lord of the Rings.
Oh, it's such an interesting spectacle.
It really is.
How would you describe the visual aesthetic of this movie to a listener who had never seen it?
Trippy as balls?
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
Well, it's weird. It devolves it starts off very normal. Like there's a prologue where there's like live action stuff happening, but it's all in like silhouette.
Yeah, it's all live action stuff, all in silhouette with some kind of grainy paper like
Yeah, or like a
screen in front of it.
looks like a potato sack or something, like a burlap,
Yeah.
maybe, something like that. So it's kind of, yeah, and it's all red. And then they do the prologue with the 9 rings and
Yeah, and so like it's all
that, right?
but like it's amazing how they do this intro and it's just voiceover with silhouettes of moving people, and even then right off the bat the acting is horrible. Just the physical acting of
Yeah.
of these characters, like
Well, it's mostly when it gets to like
forging rings
yeah.
and
the Smeagol bit is the worst.
oh my
Yeah.
word, yes, that's terrible.
But it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cool the way it's done. I don't know.
And elaborate on that. How about? How is it cool?
Oh, maybe it's not cool. I don't
It's
know.
pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's these weird,
Yeah.
over-exaggerated gesticulations that and
Yeah.
and terrible casting choices.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I just find it kind of charming in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that level of bad where you're endeared.
A little bit where it's like, well, because I look at it as like that's a very creative solution to your problem
Oh, okay.
of you need to get all, even in animation it's really expensive to do like these big epic scenes and stuff, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
and they were working on a small budget even for 1978. So I'm like, I look at the filmmaker and me kind of looks at it and goes like, oh, okay, that's we'll just hang up a sheet and shine a red light through it and we'll just get people's shadows. It's somewhat endearing to me.
Okay, yeah, no, I get
Yeah.
that. But as just the simple movie watcher, I'm
Yeah.
just like, what is this shit?
Do you think any of that comes from having just watched the Peter Jackson trilogy recently?
Well, I'm sure part of it is that, yeah. I recently rewatched all 3 of the Lord of the Rings trilogy by Peter Jackson, and it had been a while, and it was super fun. That's a good watch. And I couldn't help but compare the scenes, because I mean, like, even then, like, some of the scenes are incredibly similar. There are moments where the lines are exactly the same, and so my mind kept jumping
Mhm.
back and forth between the movies and being like, oh, where did they do this differently, and how was this said in a different way? And for the most part, this movie was kind of weird, because I felt like a lot of the voice acting was pretty good.
Yeah.
But then, like, the physical acting of the cartoon characters was so freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, so bad. And also, no one who worked on this movie could draw smiles.
No, and so the type of animation that was done in this film is a process called rotoscoping,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically live action plates are shot and then traced over or drawn over top of by the animators, as opposed to producing individual like animation cells and photographing each one, right?
Right.
And for the most part, the actual like animation looks okay. There's a little bit of cell animation done in it, but it's mostly like a painted background with then they would draw over top of the actors.
Yeah,
to
the
cre-
actors
to
who are
create the
actually going
characters.
through the scene.
Yeah, and like Frodo was actually played by a woman,
Oh.
or at least the body actor of
Yeah.
Frodo was played by a woman, and then they would trace over top, and so like what would you say the first like 20 minutes of the movie kind of just relies solely on that.
Yeah, like after the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, the intro we have live people silhouetting their jazz prologue style. Then it just sticks with animation for a while until we get to it might not even been 20 minutes because the Nazgûl.
There's a little bit in the pub in Bree where there's like live action actors that are drawn over but not completely.
Yeah, it looks weird.
Like there's really weird like Photoshop filters, like pretty basic Photoshop filters that you can get or that you can use to kind of get that look like pretty easily now. So I don't know what they did to get that, but then there was a process called solarization, which is a photochemical process. I don't know exactly how it works, but that's what they used to create a sort of cartoony look for live action footage without actually having to draw on it.
Right, yeah.
And that's what a lot of the big battle scenes were done in. And so it kind of, I'd say, yeah, like there's a little bit of that in Bree. And then the Black Riders show up, and at one point they like take off their cloaks.
Yeah,
and they're all
when
wearing
they
armor.
have their cloaks on, it seems a lot more cartoon. And it's actually like that's actually one of the things I really liked about it is when we first see the Nazgûl and their cloaks and they're riding their horses and stuff, they're legitimately terrifying. Like
they're really creepy.
Super damn creepy. They're just these weird shifting shadows in their black cloaks, and you don't see their face, but they just have these red eyes peering out, and the way they move is so different from the Peter Jackson one. They seem a lot more like shriveled husks
they're
of
like
men.
they're like limping and
they're all like
moaning and
they seem like under their cloaks they must be really malformed.
Well, yeah, because like the cloaks are like a dark gray sort of color, and then their skin and their hands and everything is like black because there's like scenes where like their hands like come protruding out of their cloaks, and it's just pitch black.
Yeah,
and the cloaks are more like a dark gray kind of. So yeah,
looks dope.
It's a cool look, and then yeah, like the red eyes. But then they take off their cloaks at one point, and they have like armor on.
Yeah,
and that's where the solarizing
and then it's all solarized. Yeah,
comes in.
And their armor looks real dumb.
Yeah, there's a behind the scenes thing that I watched today before we watched this movie.
Yeah,
it's on YouTube. You can find it. It's pretty cool. It kind of goes into explain that process a little bit more. But basically, yeah, you're developing the film in a different way, and it gives it kind of a different sort of look where it's like not quite animated, but also not quite real.
And like on its own, I think it looks really interesting.
Yeah,
this kind of cartoony live action thing.
Mm-hmm.
But just so often in the movie, it'll be this sort of cartoony live action thing, just right beside an actual cartoon looking person that's done with the rotoscoping, the difference is so stark.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't too bad for me when it was like just the orcs were done that way. But it was
because all the orcs were consistently done that way.
Yeah, it was at the end when there's like the Riders of Rohan are all done that way, but then like Gandalf and Aragorn and Theoden and Legolas and Gimli are all still cartoons. But then there's other like humans.
Yeah,
that's why Bree was so weird too, because like the innkeeper and the four hobbits and Strider were all cartoons, but then all the other bar patrons are like live
actors,
action
yeah.
actors that have this weird cartoonish kind of look to them, but it's very clearly like a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But
such a strange spectacle.
yeah. And the it slowly gets like trippier and trippier. Like I think you hit like peak like acid trip when he's like running from the Nazgûl to try to get to Elrond.
Oh yeah, the scene where the Nazgûl catch up to them just before they get to the fjord of Rivendell.
Mhm.
And man, it's like they see the fjord, and then the Nazgûl catch up to them, and then bam, it's acid trip time, and they go to some land that that's in the Flash Gordon universe,
Yeah.
and that scene takes a really long time, and I don't know what happened in it.
Nothing happened in it.
Frodo's on his horse, and then the Nazgûl is on his horse,
and they do nothing.
and their horses are whinnying, and Frodo seems pretty tired from being stabbed and poisoned on Weathertop.
Yeah. Well, the horses are like trotting back and forth, and he's saying like come with me, like to Mordor, we'll take you or whatever.
Yeah, but he only even starts talking like halfway through this million-hour scene.
Yeah, because they basically have a standoff for no reason.
Yeah.
And then Frodo starts running, and then there's like some of the other ring wraiths show up to like.
Oh yes, it's when the Nazgûl finally talks.
Yeah.
He's like, "Come back with me" or something. Then Frodo's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, and there's like two of the Nazgûl like show up to like cut him off, and he just like blows right through them.
Yeah,
and they do nothing.
Just like runs the blockade.
Yeah,
with no effort.
And then they just stand on either side of the river again
for another million hours.
It's like 20 minutes of this.
Yeah, it was so painful.
Nothing.
And the whole time we're just in some weird universe. The rest of the team, the Hobbits and Strider, they're just not around.
And this is the first time that this has ever happened this way, and it's so jarring because like there's like when the ring wraiths go to stab the bed, like the background kind of turns like red, a little bit, and then like when Frodo puts on the ring on Weathertop.
Then it gets kind of trippy.
It gets a little trippy, but not even that trippy.
Yeah, I know, because you can still kind of see the others. Like Strider still comes in and helps him, even when he's in trippy Ringland.
Yeah, and this just goes full insane.
Yeah,
crazy acid trip.
It's
weirdness. Yeah,
it's inexplicable. It's one of those things that like you have to see it to understand it, but you won't understand it. And I don't recommend that you see it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like that.
There is that. I don't know. There's probably clips on YouTube.
But don't.
Look, it's your time. All right. You spend it however you want to spend it. There's clearly an influence to Peter Jackson though. In some ways.
Oh yeah, like there were like parts that were just far too similar for it to be coincidence.
Like shot for shot.
Yeah.
Like the proud feet bit was like a straight up he took that shot from this movie.
Yeah, it must have.
And even like the bit with the ring wraith when they're hiding on the road. Underneath the roots and stuff like that.
And when and Frodo starts to like get the ring out involuntarily, and the Nazgûl starts to starts to smell from him. Like, oh man, it's just like that. And they're like hiding under the roots of the tree. And he's like perched over top.
That shot where they're like all hiding underneath the roots, and he's like got his like hand on the roots, and he's like looking around like right over top of them. Is like pretty much pretty much the same. And then there's one more that I can't remember off the top of my head now. I think I forgot to write it down. But
It'll come back to you.
yeah. There's some weird character choices.
Yep.
Gandalf is weird.
Gandalf is incredible.
He is also my favorite part of the movie.
That's fair. Yeah. Because he looks like classic high fantasy wizard.
Yeah.
With the pointy hat and the long robe and like super long beard and long hair that also melds into his fantasy eyebrows.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But then, oh my gosh, he's a hand talker. That one.
He really is. Not as much as Gollum.
Not quite, no.
But he points a lot. He's got very long fingers, and he likes to articulate them while he speaks.
Yes. And it's very distracting. He's got some wild gesticulations.
In fact, on the poster for the movie, which, by the way, is hanging up in this room, I have a full-sized movie poster for this movie on my wall, and I have zero shame about that.
It's amazing.
But he is holding a giant sword, and he is pointing.
He is fucking pointing.
And there's a laser shooting out of his finger.
It's so true to his character.
Yeah.
He points a fuckload. He's
yeah.
always pointing. No matter what he's talking about.
And twirling.
Oh, yes. He does lots of wild arms and twirls, and he, like, at one point...
Cape
he just,
flourishes.
like throws his cape. I think, it was the Fool of a Took scene.
Yeah.
And he, like, throws his cape dramatically around him as he turns and storms away from Bill Pip.
He's a bit of a drama queen.
It's amazing.
Yeah, really good. Or even when he's like explaining, or when he's saying like the thing of the One Ring to rule them all, when he's doing it like in Mordor language or whatever. He's doing this like interpretive dance almost, where he's like throwing his hands up in the air and like spinning around
and pointing
and articulating all of his fingers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's so special. And like you gotta imagine like there was an actor.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Making all those choices.
Probably a dude with like a big fake beard.
Yep.
And yeah.
And big fake eyebrows.
Very good. Very good. There's a lot of weird abrupt transitions
constantly
in this movie.
Yeah.
The most obvious one, I think, is when they're in Moria.
Yep.
There's a scene, if you remember from the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings, there's a scene where Frodo thinks he can see Gollum, and then
just the eyes shining in the dark.
Yeah, and then he has a little chat with Gandalf, and that's when he gives the whole like it was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand speech, right? And then at the end he goes like, "Oh, I just remembered, it's this way." And then he does the bit about the air smells less foul down here.
Yeah.
But in this movie, Frodo wakes up. They're all sleeping. Frodo wakes up, sees some green eyes, goes, and then they're walking away. It just hard cuts.
Yep.
Or do the eyes fade away first and then
Nope.
it just hard cuts? No, it doesn't.
I think he sees the eyes, and then it's just a shot of him reacting to seeing the eyes, and then it's later.
Yeah, and they're just walking up some stairs, still in Moria.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit like that happens numerous times throughout the movie.
So many times where
It's very painful.
Where like all we could figure was like they had to get so much material into this movie because it's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, not that long. All of the Lord of the Rings movies are longer than that, and this one takes up 2 books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an important note for those who haven't seen the movie. It doesn't do the whole trilogy in one animated feature.
Mostly 2 books.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of Frodo and Sam in the Two Towers section of it, and
they don't really wrap up Saruman at all.
Yeah, Saruman, there's 0 payoff. There's no Shelob, which is actually in the Two Towers book.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they kind of end with the
Helm's Deep victory.
Helm's Deep victory is kind of where it ends. And the last time you see Merry and Pippin, they're just getting carried away by a tree.
Oh, yes, and boy, does that tree look special.
It kind of looks like the Deku tree.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It does.
I got a little Legend of Zelda kind of vibe.
Yeah, because it has. Oh, it's kind of plump.
Yeah,
and it has those short. It has short, stubby legs. And I think my favorite thing about this tree beard is that it definitely has a butt.
Yes. He is all torso.
Yes. Tiny little legs. He just
Tiny little legs.
Waddles back and forth to move his little legs, shaking his little tush.
Ridiculously long arms, and he holds Merry and Pippin out in front of him, as far away as possible, and then
his arms are also different color from the rest of his body.
So funny.
So it kind of looks like
look up if you can.
He's not wearing sleeves or something.
Look up the Treebeard scene on YouTube. I'm sure it's out there.
It's quite humorous.
That's really funny.
But again, great voice.
yeah, good voice.
The voice looks really stupid.
The voice acting in this is actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
John Hurt plays.
That's
Aragorn.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I knew I recognized the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Brilliant.
Yeah, really good stuff.
Just looks so bad.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, okay, speaking of Saruman, they call him Aruman in this movie.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Because apparently they were worried that Sauron and Saruman would sound too similar and would confuse the audience.
And I think at one point or another we've all thought that.
Sure.
Why are their names so similar? It's come up in our minds, I'm sure.
I think, I'm just going to say it. I think Tolkien was a little lazy sometimes. Aragorn, son of Arathorn. Did you really give it your all on that one? JRR.
Jr.
Really? So
yeah, well,
we got Sauron, and then I need another bad wizard. Sauruman is the
Sauron.
The Digimon.
Digivolve too. Yeah, you were there. Yeah, nailed it. Yeah,
Saruman.
So in order to avoid confusion, they did Aruman.
Sorry,
Yes.
I had to do the Digivolve song.
Yes,
So Aruman.
Digimon are the champions, I know.
So,
So yeah, they went with Aruman, but not consistently. There's definitely 1 or 2 times where a Saruman comes out of Gandalf's mouth with the S.
Well, yeah, so Gandalf's like, I need to go speak to Aruman, the head of my order. And then he rides to Isengard and he's like, Saruman, I'm here to speak to you.
Yeah, and then when he's like, it was very unclear exactly what Saruman did to him, but rainbow fog came out of his cloak and Gandalf was more or less frozen.
Yeah.
And then it zoomed out and he was kind of on top of a tower, sort of.
Yeah.
Somehow. And as he's calling out his name, he definitely sounds like he's saying, Saruman.
Yeah, and Saruman himself refers to himself as Saruman in that scene.
Oh.
And he goes would you rather let the Dark Lord have it, or Saruman of many colors?
And then the disco rainbow fog comes out of his cloak. and they're standing. He's standing really close to him. They're uncomfortably close together with their arms out,
so
flashing each other.
And Saruman's staff is like a gigantic, like thick, like you can't get your whole hand around it staff
It's almost a battering ram, yeah.
that has like a bird head like carved onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It's a very special scene.
Yeah, it's so weird.
They also made him wearing red.
Yeah, he's
Like,
Saruman the
just
White.
to make sure we knew
Wearing
he was
red.
evil or something.
I guess maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Or to differentiate him from Gandalf later when Gandalf becomes Gandalf the White.
Well, he doesn't come back later, so it.
Well, yeah, but just so that you're not confused or like, oh, is that the bad guy? Oh wait, no, it's Gandalf. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's fresh.
Because like audiences probably had fallen asleep at some point.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. There's so many weird acting choices. Like when
outside of the ones we've already mentioned.
yeah, well, the one that really comes to mind is Galadriel when she is
when she like passes the test.
yeah, when she's doing like, oh, you would offer it to me freely, and instead of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen, beautiful and terrible as the dawn.
Yeah.
And all shall fear me in despair. And she's and, you know, and like when they do it in the Peter Jackson, she's like screaming and turns green.
And shit goes wild.
Yeah, and
it's
like her
scary.
voice goes like super weirdly deep and distorted and exorcisty.
Yeah.
And then
it's
in this one, she's just kind of
she's
like
a really powerful like witch, basically.
And this one, she's just kind of like talking to herself a little bit and like strutting around her garden and
like making light of the
yeah,
situation.
and she's like, "Oh, I passed the test. I will diminish and go into the west." And just kind of all happens like all on the same tone.
Yeah.
So it's just all kind of one random thought.
Yeah.
Like I could take this and I could be a beautiful, terrible queen. Well, I passed the test. Time for me to go.
You know, I did kind of get the impression that the people who made this movie didn't know what women were.
I mean,
because
fair.
Galadriel is not a character.
No.
And Galadriel later comes back as Éowyn.
Yeah, it's like the exact same doodle.
They look identical to me.
Yeah.
It was sad.
It's ridiculous. Like
Éowyn,
same. They didn't
Éowyn
even,
also doesn't say anything.
They didn't change the color of her outfit.
Nope.
It was exactly the same.
It was just Galadriel again.
Yeah. Now, the Lord of the Rings books don't have a lot of women in them to begin with.
No.
So
but that's just why we gotta make sure we utilize the ones that are there.
It was a different time, Matthew. Yeah. No, it's true.
It's pretty bad. But oh man, yeah. What was up with Elrond too?
Oh, Elrond was like the worst.
Yeah. Also, like let's set the scene here. This is another fun scene. So it's the council, right?
Yeah.
And you know, think about the Peter Jackson version. It's just a circle of chairs, pedestal in the middle of the ring goes on, and they're having a round discussion.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1978 version of Lord of the Rings, there's a rectangular table.
Yeah, big old banquet hall kind of thing.
Yeah, banquet hall table.
Yeah.
Still outside in a kind of like patio looking area, just like in Peter Jackson's one. But Elrond is
he's at the head of the table.
He is the head of the table. He's sitting on a fucking throne.
Yeah. That is
on top of
the table.
Head of the table. Yeah. He is like, sitting literally above everyone else.
Yeah, he's on the end of the table, and then everyone else is like seated at the table like normal people.
It's ridiculous.
And he just looks like a dude.
He looks like some dude, like one of the dudes that they would have met in Bree.
It's like Kyle Chandler is Elrond.
Yes. He just looks like some bloke.
Just an average dude with an average haircut.
Like there are no elven features.
Doesn't have elf ears at all.
No.
Yeah.
It's like what? And he also barely even does anything.
Yeah.
He's just kind of there, like lording over everyone.
He goes. Well, Frodo's like, I guess I can take the ring, and then he goes, "It appears this task has been appointed to you, Frodo."
Because he just
It's like,
fucking volunteered.
oh, you mean the task that he just volunteered for?
Good thing you were there, Elrond.
Yeah. And that's like one of his 3 lines in the movie.
Yeah.
It's really good. Really good.
On the up and up, though, that's the scene where we meet Boromir. And Boromir looks fucking dope in this movie.
Yeah. Boromir's a badass.
He looks like a Viking.
Yeah, he's got a Viking helmet with horns.
Yeah.
He's got a beard that takes up most of his face.
Yes, and it's red.
And both he and Aragorn and most of the men in this movie, none of them wear pants.
No pants.
It's just a tunic and boots.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Boromir's also got some furs going on.
Yeah, he's
and
got
like
the
a
furs.
cummerbund-sized belt.
Yeah. Oh, Aragorn's got the huge belt too. The fucking.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what that's called, but it's a thing, and it was used a lot in this movie.
It's the Flava Flav clock necklace equivalent of a belt, basically.
Yes.
It's that audacious.
Yes, it is, and it goes very well with no pants and high boots.
Also, you could tell this was the 70s because Aragorn is drawn to look almost exactly like Conan the Barbarian.
The Barbarian, yes.
Like the old Conan
gosh.
cartoon show, or like any of the illustrations you see of him on like the old book covers, where he's got that like the weird bob haircut with the bangs.
Yes,
Like
it's
the,
so
like
bad.
the black like helmet haircut, basically. The black He-Man.
Yep.
Like He-Man's got that blonde helmet look, and then
Yeah.
which apparently they made He-Man blonde because they didn't want him to look too much like Conan.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, mission accomplished.
Yeah. There's a really good He-Man documentary on Netflix, by the way, that I watched a while ago,
Oh,
just as a sidebar. Don't remember what it's called.
I think I remember it popping up on my feed and me being like, oh.
Yeah, it's about like the history of the whole Masters of the Universe toy line and how that was created, and yeah, kind of cool.
I'm sure that would be more interesting than the 1978 Lord of the Rings movie.
It's shorter.
Oh, yeah. Parts of this movie were just painfully long.
Yeah.
Went on for just hours, it seemed. Hours trapped inside one scene.
The other amazing looking character, though, is Gimli,
Oh, yeah. Gimli looks pretty dope.
who is a dwarf,
Although-
who is the same height as everyone else.
He's just not a dwarf.
Yeah. The only characters that are shorter are the hobbits. Like, at least they got that right
Yep.
most of the time.
Most of the time.
And then, yeah, Gimli's just the same height as everyone, and he's wearing a toque
Yeah. He's got a nice long toque on.
or a beanie if you're from anywhere other than Canada.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, Gimli's just like straight up hipster.
Yeah.
He's just got this kind of saggy toque like hanging off the back of his head, and he's got this huge beard. Probably smells like pine.
And ultimately, he's like a pretty chill dude in this movie.
Yeah.
He's not like some gruff, grumpy, curmudgeonly dwarf. He's
No.
a pretty chill dude.
I mean, he also only has like 2 lines, I think, in the whole movie.
Well, yeah, this is true. He doesn't do a whole lot. But like,
But him and Legolas have nothing to do in this movie.
no, not really. Ooh,
Oh my.
drums in the deep.
Excuse me. The horn of Helm Hammerhand is
Sounding in the deep.
yeah,
Nice.
one last time.
Mm. But yeah, like, just one more thing on Gimli. Just like when he finds out Balin's dead, because Gandalf's like reading from this book,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, Balin is dead, and Gimli's like, oh, and he looks like kind of bummed and walks away a bit. But it's like, nothing like Peter Jackson's, where
break.
he just like falls to his knees and cries to the heavens, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, bummer.
It's like, like that really sucks.
Yeah.
I should get out of this mind.
That's
Oh, and
them's the breaks.
before we move on from the mines of Moria,
Yeah.
can we please talk about the Balrog?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's a lion
It's like a lion bull.
bull with bat wings.
Really, really wide ones.
Yeah.
And-
It's not on fire at all.
And like big hooves.
Its sword is kind of on fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cartoon. The sword is a cartoon.
A cartoon flaming sword.
Which
isn't that long.
Which is not that long.
Seems like a short sword.
Yeah, it's a little chode of a sword. And it's
And he's got a whip when we first see it. Yeah, he still has the whip.
He says, yeah, because he uses it to pull Gandalf.
It's just with the wings and the flaming sword, it's not that noticeable that he's holding a whip in the other hand.
Yeah.
And it's the giant lion head with like the bull nose.
Yeah. And is ultimately not that tall. Like it's like maybe a foot taller than Gandalf.
And that's only because the head is so big.
Yeah.
It's just a dude wearing a giant mascot head.
And it uses the wings to fly.
Yeah.
And like really high. Could have just flown over top of Gandalf. Didn't need to use the bridge at all.
Nope.
But instead it like flies up really high, lands right in front of Gandalf.
On the bridge.
Gandalf does his on the bridge, and he does, well, you shall not pass. Except in this way, it says you cannot pass. So it's a little different. There's a little tweak. They tweaked it later, and the bridge breaks and it falls, and it immediately forgets it has wings.
Yeah, it just falls, and then that scene happens a lot less dramatically, obviously, and it's not drawn out. It's like he goes down, whips Gandalf. Gandalf is immediately pulled right off the bridge.
Yeah,
and actually Aragorn does like a huge diving save to try to catch him.
Yeah.
And lands on the edge of where the bridge was broken, and like Boromir's there to like stop him from falling over.
Yeah.
But then Gandalf's just like falling already so far, and he's just like, "Get the fuck out of here, idiots!"
Yeah. Yeah. It was a weird dialogue choice, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, he just got really fed up at that point with all the bullshit, you know.
Just an ad lib that was actually not even, that was just him yelling at like the crew as he was leaving the studio. And like,
that's why it sounded so far away.
This movie's gonna bomb.
Oh,
I wonder if it did bomb actually.
That's a very good question. You talk about that while I talk about the next wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Gandalf dies.
Oh no, it did quite well.
Oh,
I suppose.
Well,
relatively speaking.
So Gandalf dies, and this is another wonderful example of our terrible editing, where they're like, "What's the point of going on? We don't have Gandalf. We're screwed." And then Aragorn's like, "No, we gotta go to Lothlorien." Smash cut to in front of Galadriel.
No. He's like, we gotta go to Lothlorien. And Boromir is like, fuck that shit. We're not going to Lothlorien. I would rather go back into Moria and face the Balrog again than face that witch. Boom. Welcome to Lothlorien. I'm Galadriel.
That's right. He's so insistent. And then it just cuts to they're there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like a little bit of like an audio lead in where it's like, welcome to Lothlorien. It's like cuts to them. They're all just like standing right in front of her. Yeah, that was great.
Oh, it was so bad.
Yeah, so the movie cost $4 million to make in 1978 dollars, and it made $30.5 million at the box office.
Oh wow!
So like decent return on investment.
Yeah. No fooling.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even if you do the whole like double your production budget for marketing, that's $8 million. Still coming out pretty good on top.
Yeah. Better than I imagined, but I guess yeah, like 78.
There's less going on.
Yeah, and if you were one of the many Tolkien loving nerds of that time, and a film like this came out, clearly a lot of imagination went into making it possible.
Yeah.
I'm sure many people were blown away.
Oh yeah, I'm sure in 1978 this was like fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like this was always like Tolkien sold the film rights off for like no money. Because he was like, no one's gonna be able to do this. He was like, sure, yeah, you can try. And like the Beatles at one point were gonna try and make a Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. Can you imagine?
They're like, yeah, I want a Rick and Morty portal gun so I can travel to the alternate dimension where they succeeded in making that movie.
What a wonderful experience that would be.
Yeah. Most of my alternate, like, interdimensional travel would be to go to universes where movies got made that didn't happen in this universe. Like, I would go see George Lucas's Episode 7,
Oh.
see what he did there. I
Yeah.
would see Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4,
Oh, okay.
Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy 3,
Hmm.
these kind of things.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Beatles Lord of the Rings movie would be like priority number 1.
Do you think that your scene points would transfer?
Ooh, no.
It makes sense.
I don't think so.
Extra dimensional scene points.
Yeah, that's a bit far-fetched.
No. Oh, so yeah, this movie was a real turd.
Yeah. Can we talk about Grima Wormtongue?
Oh.
Grima Bad Touch Wormtongue.
So bad. He's so.
He looks like a French pervert.
Yep.
He has a wafer thin mustache.
Thin, just tiny little Frenchman mustache with like
And
the
he's like
long pointed nose.
Yeah, and he's like a tiny little man, too. Like, he's not very tall.
He is hobbit sized.
He's about hobbit sized, and he's just nuzzling Theoden with his face.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like face on face action, and he's stroking his
the
beard.
first time we see him, the mustache was incredibly distracting, and only after having a few seconds to begin to get over the mustache, which is still a process I'm undergoing, I noticed that he's literally just stroking the side of Theoden's face and like mussing up one of his fantasy eyebrows as he does it.
Yeah,
And I'm like, what the fuck?
and there's two types of face stroking. All right, so you're sitting side by side with a person. Usually you'd give like a reach around and you would stroke the opposite cheek, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's creepy in and of itself. But he's doing like the same side that his face is on, which is weird because it's more like you're like petting an animal at that point.
It is petting.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing.
He's straight up petting him.
He was petting Theoden's face. That's how you know you've got a hold on someone. You can just pet their face and they don't punch you.
Is that how you know?
Test it.
Okay.
If they punch you, you do not have complete control over them.
I guarantee you I could do that to Scott and not get punched. Anyways.
We should film it later.
I think we've covered everything I have on my notes. Yeah, pervert Grima was the last thing I had on mine.
Oh yeah, just two more things.
We haven't talked about Smeagol really at all.
That's one of them.
Okay.
But just before we get to Smeagol, because that's a bit of a larger topic, I thought it was a very interesting choice. In Peter Jackson's, it's not a very overt thing, but while they're in Lothlorien, there's a scene that starts with
I know where you're going with this.
With Legolas listening to this kind of ethereal song that's surrounding them. It's very subtle.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful. It's very background, right? And he, kind of somewhat casually mentions like they're singing a song of mourning. It's for Gandalf.
Yeah.
And it's super sad. In this version of Lord of the Rings, it's a children's choir.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like
kind of just
somewhere out there.
It sounds like they're singing a fucking camp song.
Yeah.
And it's not subtle. It's not in the background. It's pretty fucking loud. And they're like, that song must be for Gandalf. And it's just some children's choir.
Then there's a montage over top of it.
Yeah.
With like Boromir and Aragorn are like sparring and Legolas and Gimli are
Aragorn's
making
like
out.
Play fighting with Frodo.
Yeah.
And like they seem to be having fun, and Frodo like pretends to vanquish him and like puts his foot up on him and holds his sword in the air. And
what did Legolas and Gimli do?
Legolas is teaching Gimli to shoot a bow.
Right, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then Sam is just picking flowers and throwing them into the air.
Yep. Like a fucking asshole.
He just picks some flowers. Does he even smell them?
I think he does.
Yeah,
He picks a few and then smells them all at once
And then
flings
throws them into the air and just like skips on down the trail.
Which, by the way, Samwise looks like a fucking troll doll in this.
Oh, he is the ugliest fucking.
He's very
thing.
short. He's very hideous.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. He just has the same hair as everyone else instead of troll doll hair. But he looks like a damn troll. It's terrifying sometimes.
If you put a pink mohawk on him, he'd just be a troll doll.
Yeah.
Also,
it's terrible.
Weird thing I'm just noticing about the poster. While Gandalf looks pretty much the same, neither of those hobbits are in the movie.
No.
No.
Not even a little bit.
No. So that's a sidebar.
Yeah. But then the last choice, which I mean
ugh.
one of the biggest changes that happened in Peter Jackson's movie is really how we experience Smeagol / Gollum, because Andy Serkis changed the character completely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so, it's hard not to draw similarities and differences between the two.
Yeah.
But I think it was probably a good choice in Peter Jackson's version that Smeagol's head didn't look like a scrotum.
Yeah. Oh, he's
scrotum with ears.
His old nutsack head.
It's horrible. Smeagol looks fucking terrible in this movie.
It even has like little ball hairs.
Yes.
Sticking off of it.
There are pubes.
Yeah.
On his otherwise bald, scroty head.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Just a wrinkly old ball sack of a head.
Yep, and his hands are huge.
Oh yeah, he's got fucking like
monster claws.
Yeah, he could, if he was really tall, he'd probably be a really good basketball player with hands that size. I bet you he could dunk one-handed on like a children's net.
Yeah. Probably.
He got massive hands, buckets for hands,
and yet the creepiest thing about his character design is that his supposed loincloth was the exact same color as all of him.
Oh yeah, it was.
Where it's kind of like, is he wearing a loincloth, or does his butt sag and his dick is torn at the end?
The old droopy ass.
Yeah. He's just one solid gray color, except for his eyes. And it is scrotacular.
Yeah, pretty scrotacular.
Yes. And some of his line delivery, because like we hear Smeagol, Smeagol. I'm not very good at Andy Serkis's version, but it's iconic now.
Don't follow the lights.
Yes. Yeah. Like that. But this dude is like
oh, Smeagol. We must find the pressure.
He wants the pressure. Mamma mia.
Oh, yeah, he's a hand talker.
Oh my gosh.
More so than Gandalf.
It's like when he's talking, he's trying to make sure that he's scooping enough air in his direction to fuel his lungs to keep the sentence going. He just keeps scooping it toward him and scooping it and scooping it and then and then scooping it and he's, I don't know what the fuck. Like,
yeah,
it was special.
Yeah, I think the weirdest thing about this movie. Oh, I mean, okay, it's not the weirdest thing about this movie.
We've gone over some pretty weird things, my dude.
Let me eliminate that sentence.
Okay.
One thing that sucks about this movie is that like Frodo is like not even really a character or like the main character in any way. There's not really a main character.
There is not a main character.
And there's also like very little emphasis put on the ring itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think, and we kind of came to this conclusion as we were watching it. We kind of feel like when it came to the production of this film, they had a motto, and that motto was "Keep it going."
Yeah.
Because they just needed to get through the content, and they didn't really care how they did it. They just needed to have some of it.
Yeah.
And they just needed to keep going.
Just next scene. I'd never go to Lothlorien. Welcome to Lothlorien. Just like that cut was like it was like a comedy cut.
Yes.
Like it was a cut
seemed
that you
hilarious.
would play for laughs. Oh man,
Oh, it was special. Oh my gosh.
very very good. So I have the Rotten Tomatoes
Oh,
score.
beautiful.
Are we done?
Yes, I think we've said all that needs to be said.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. All right. To have a gander.
At the Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And so this would be like today's rating, right? Like,
Yeah, I think so.
because like in 78 this was great, but
Mm-hmm.
is it like 35?
No, it's actually higher than that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
47,
So close.
46.
It's a straight 50.
Straight 50. Wow,
Yeah.
half and half.
Yeah. The audience score is a 64 though, so the audience liked it a bit more.
Okay.
And the consensus is that Bakshi's valiant attempt at rendering Tolkien's magnum opus in rotoscope never lives up to the grandeur of its source material, with a compressed running time that flattens the sweeping story and experimental animation that is more bizarre than magical.
More bizarre than magical. I think that sums
Yeah.
it up pretty nicely.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
It is a weird watch.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you gotta watch it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going Craptacular on this one.
It's Craptacular.
Yeah.
It's Craptacular.
You got to see it. If you have kids, sit some kids down to watch this and just see if it can hold their attention.
Be prepared for them to be terrified by the Nazgûl, at least at first.
Yeah, don't show it to like really young kids, but like, maybe like 7 or 8.
I mean, I was probably 7 or 8 when I watched it. And
Yeah.
the Nazgûl scared the crap out of me. But
I remember getting it from the library around the time that the first Lord of the Rings movie came out, or in between them coming out, something like that, and watching it and just being like, what the fuck? Like, I remember the Nazgûl chase scene coming on, and I just checked
acid
out.
trip
I just
on the
checked
horses.
out.
Yeah, no.
My like 10-year-old brain was like, nope, can't do it.
There's nothing to occupy your brain in that scene.
Yeah. My brain did the classic Homer. Well, you can stay here, but I'm leaving.
yeah, appropriate.
Yeah. So that's that.
Oh, yes. Thank you, 70s.
Magical time. If you enjoyed the show, I'll do the ending of the show.
Please,
thing.
yes, go ahead.
We don't know what we're watching next month yet, so any suggestions are welcome. If you enjoyed the show, you can. It would be great if you can rate and review on iTunes. Recommend to a friend. Share it on your Facebook, your Twitter, whatever you use. You can follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, Patreon, all at RetroCrapPod. The Patreon account is like real cheap. It's like $1. It's like $1 a month.
It is just $1.
Yeah, it's cheaper than a cup of coffee a month.
Yeah, because coffee.
It's like $3.50
It's
for like
expensive
a
these
decent
days,
cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not talking on that Tim Hortons double crap. I'm talking like a good cup of coffee
From a coffee shop.
Yeah. Well, it's even cheaper than a Tim Hortons double piece of crap. So
Yeah.
So really, what have you got to lose except your $1 a month? Which, let's face it, you'd waste that $1 anyways.
So why not waste it on us?
Exactly. And you get all the episodes early, and there's some bonus content on there as well. You can find the show on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and pretty much anywhere you find podcasts. But yeah, we'd appreciate it if you like it, share it with someone who you think would also like it, because that's kind of the best way to get the show out there and get more people listening. So yeah, That's did I do all of the things? Is that all the things that I normally do?
That's probably all the things.
I think it is. Yeah, I'll say it is. And then and come back next month where we'll be talking about some other piece of crap probably.
Oh, very likely.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of what we do.
Sometimes we accidentally watch something good.
Yeah, very occasionally. But yeah,
What was the last good thing? Maybe Roadhouse?
Roadhouse is fucking amazing. I don't think there will ever be another Roadhouse where it's like we go to watch an old bad movie and it's actually just amazing.
Yeah. Oh, Roadhouse is so good. All right. Let's watch it now.
Palate cleanser.
Get
Let's
the
do it.
taste of this movie out of my mouth. All right. Have a good. What do I know? Oh, keep watching crap.